Robin Brown basically labeled Kody's boys as dangerous, saying that they were unsafe and that her kids couldn't be near them due to whatever was going on between Kody and the boys. And we'll never know about a lot of things that have happened in this family. Additionally, there have probably been many instances of abuse that they have never discussed. It's also a given that a show like Sister Wives, which actively promotes polygamy, would never discuss whether or not there have been any physical altercations. Guys, it's Selena here. Welcome to TLC Flix. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. They are attempting to highlight the positive aspects of polygamy, thus they most definitely won't broadcast it on our show. Furthermore, they will not address the negative aspects, so the whole story is truly unknown to us. All I can make sense of is what the TV is showing us, and during the entire period, it has always seemed to me like a smokescreen. Let's just assign blame to the boys for acting dangerously when it's actually Kody who poses a risk. And at least in my opinion, Season 17 was a kind of turning point. And I believe that for a great deal of fans, the true Kody Brown is now being revealed. I caught glimmers of him in every season. Furthermore, I was never really a fan of the show. Because he was so narcissistic, chauvinist, and disrespectful to the women, I had to quit watching it for a very long time. And it starts from the very beginning. Anyone who wants to argue that Kody has evolved is welcome. It's simply untrue. He's treated these women cruelly all along. It was the 17th season. There was a scene in the first episode where Christine was going to depart. Then as the talk was about to close, Kody started to lose it at the possibility that Christine would move on, take her kids to another state, have someone steal his property, and face legal action from the state. Considering that polygamy is forbidden, Kody is an extremely paranoid person. In all 50 states, it is prohibited. This is a federal offense. In the state of Arizona, it is actually a felony. They always boast about how decriminalized it is in Utah, yet they actually reside in a place where it is still illegal. Furthermore, he was behaving almost like a property owner toward Christine. After that, I rewatched an earlier episode called Knife in the Kidneys, in which Christine is described as being like a piece of property in a lot of words. According to this episode, Kody is dangerous, and the way he acts convinces her that she should go. Combining that with the subsequent episodes and the underlying anxiety in her voice when she said this, I'm beginning to see that it wasn't as simple for her to go as it seemed to me on the show. Because he was unwilling to part with the investment, his response was explosive. He was unwilling to part with his belongings. He thinks she was hers. And even when they broke up, even at the conclusion of their talk, he still felt he possessed her. I'd like to briefly go over our acting in the video. Then, after Christine warned that he was dangerous, play you the other video to kind of demonstrate to you that Christine has been attempting to inform us since 2020 that Kody is a really dangerous person. And Kody Brown is the family member who is harming people worldwide if anyone. Her intention is to leave him, and her moving to Utah causing him and her to argue. And he is furious that she will decide to end their relationship without first consulting him because she didn't ask for his permission to do so. She moved out without asking his permission. Really, she didn't ask for his permission to do anything. He was so confident in their relationship that he thought she should be able to do anything and could do anything with his approval. He regarded her as though she were his property from the first minute they met. Additionally, he didn't regard her needs or wants and didn't care about him because she was his property. Since he owned her when she eventually found the guts to leave him during this talk that constituted the first episode of Season 17, as best as I can tell, he thought she should just sit down and shut up. By calling her ugly and saying he didn't know any better, he is demeaning her. He also says he didn't want to marry her and that he couldn't enjoy being married to her since she constantly complained about things and said it wasn't his fault. He becomes quite aggressive, pointing his finger and adopting an aggressive stance. He's also speaking quietly, but it's clear that he's furious. From her usual behavior, you can see that she is quite, at least from my perspective. She appears uncomfortable and occasionally afraid. She whispered in that instant, lowering her voice almost to that of a child. She was probably well aware of how dangerous he was at that particular moment because he makes it clear that any man who gets involved with her is only going to try to take all of his money and take his children away from him, possibly with the intention of holding him accountable in court. He also makes the specific point that the only man who would like her would be a user, not a man who genuinely has a good person. He's monetizing her in the sense that he's assuming the next man will solely desire her for financial gain, just as he did. She is, in his opinion, being properly viewed as capital. It's as if he's telling on himself that the only reason anyone would want to be with her is for financial gain, and the only reason he would want anything to do with her would be for financial gain. Typically, when a narcissist accuses someone else, it's almost like a confession. In other words, essentially, he's saying, I saw you as collateral. At least that's how I saw you, as money. You had better promise me that you won't do this to me since I saw you as collateral, as money that I had exchanged for you. As if it were his last, a final threat from him. It's evident she's not at all comfortable. She feels as though she must maintain her composure and perhaps become nearly infantile as a result of the situation. And she responded on the coach, indicating that it clearly set off a reaction in her. She is obviously extremely unpleasant. She's also grinning nervously. In addition, Christine has a tendency to chuckle when she's feeling particularly emotional, including fear, nervousness, and anger. She has mentioned this frequently. She also claims that she makes a great effort to keep her emotions hidden as they make her uncomfortable. You know, it's really vulnerable to go there. She also hails from a society in which it is expected of women to always wear a grin. And for me, that's the turning point where I watch her respond to this. I may be misinterpreting what I hear, but when she says, he is not safe for me, I believe she's realizing that if this man doesn't respect my humanity, then he doesn't regard me as a human. If all he sees in me is someone who is going to steal all of his money, and the only man I can have is one who will treat me the same way he treated me, then I don't think of myself as a person. Rather, I think of myself as property. And for someone, that's a very risky position. Men see women as nothing more than property, which is why it's extremely risky for women to leave polygamy. As a result, when their property leaves the house, some of these guys can become very, very aggressive and physical. I can't even begin to count the number of women I've spoken to who have left men in polygamy, and when they did decide to leave, they were beaten or, in one of their last fights, they were punched, thrown downstairs, and thrown into walls. After they leave, they are stalked and harassed through the legal system, going through custody disputes or lawsuits, all in an effort to ascertain the woman's life as miserable as possible. I am therefore very aware that Christine has witnessed these events firsthand, even though she hasn't stated as much on the show. Since violence occurs frequently in our culture, it would be naive for any of us to believe that any of these women have never experienced it, either in their own families, via their siblings' marriages, or through friends' experiences. Actually, Nicole, the wife of Cody's closest friend, was beaten brutally by Kyle before she left him, Chris, and you would have to keep in mind that they are aware of Kyle's identity. They are aware of Cody's social circle, which consists of Kyle, and they also know that Kody is drawn to and admires extremely aggressive individuals. Kody grew up with a father that was not very gentle. Ben, his nephew, has recounted how violent he was. Additionally, Kody and a few of his brothers have mentioned how abusive he was. Next, you have Mary. Never talks about this, really. However, Mary's father mistreated her cruelly. A few days ago, I heard a tale about how one of his wives supposedly left him after he tossed her down the stairs. This all boils down to the fact that women are extremely afraid of leaving. Thus, he is unable to do so as these men don't regard them as human beings. Instead, they view them as nothing more than objects, and they have no difficulty hurting people who lack empathy. You don't. They're not more than just an item. Furthermore, mistreating an object is simpler than mistreating a person. Furthermore, she is informing us that he sees me only as such, and he does in fact acknowledge it in a subsequent episode. Is expressing that he feels like an investor who makes an investment, but the venture fails and he doesn't get his money back. Looking at Christine, he thought that if he invested time or money in something, it would return his investment. She is not seen as a human being by him. She is not valued as a human being by him. If only he had respected her as a human being. Otherwise, it would not be in this situation. Because if you had respected her as a person, he would never have forced her to marry him. And if he had viewed her as anything other than property and a way to gain influence in this society due to her status, he would not have married her. As Rulin Allred's granddaughter and the daughter of Raxel Red, had you viewed her as Christine Allred, instead of a lovely, vibrant, and compassionate person, he's a charming, imaginative, and funny guy. If you could have seen that, he wouldn't have needed to make the investment. Relationships are something you can invest in, not someone else. Indeed, to be clear, I think you're going to get criticism for stretching this. All I know is how polygamy operates. I am aware that Cody intended to marry her when he said he felt like he wanted to. He also sensed pressure. Christine goes so far as to suggest that weddings are not arranged. However, if a woman approaches a family and the brethren say, "Yes, you need to marry this woman if you want to get to the next level," and if he recognizes Christina's worth and the culture, and if he believes she will elevate him within the group, then they kind of do. He sees it this way: you're going to help me achieve my goals, which are to be on the priesthood council, the next prophet, the person in charge of the skirt, or whatever it was that Kody desired. She was a blue-blood polygamist, and that's why he wanted her. There was nothing more to her than her bloodline in his eyes, and he got what he wanted: blue-blooded, polygamous children. Therefore, when Christine was leaving him, he witnessed the blue-blooded children as well as the investment of that blue blood walking out the door. That's what he wants. Those children are all red, descended from Verlin. Because he feels they are the most distinguished, he wants all red and descendants of rule. For this reason, he is more concerned with Robin's biological children, the elder ones from her previous marriage. Since they aren't blue-blooded, he feels a stronger connection to them than to the other Killick children. Because there is no cult-related bond, children of Channel's polygamy can readily forsake her offspring. They are not connected to the red-blooded family. They are not related to Rulin by blood. Kody and Janelle are both converts. They are not blue-blooded polygamists there. Their children are not worth as much as royalty. The haves and the have-nots are located in the S section. For the longest time, all reds were the haves. Being with all reds earned you a prestigious point that you couldn't obtain in any other way. As a result, he finds it simpler to abandon Channel's children due to their lack of blue blood. It was because of Christine that he became completely insane. She's my gateway to this civilization. I want to be the next ruler. I want that blue. Okay, I really want to be in charge of everything. After all, a cousin of Christine told me that Kody had done just that. Rather than because he was in love with her, he married her because he believed he would become the church's prophet. He was walking and watching the person leave out the door when she laughed. I'll read her dad, that's why he goes crying to Rex. She's leaving me as a result. Since he is aware that Christine's departure will discredit him in the cult, he is not upset that she is leaving. He is aware that having her go doesn't look good at all, and he is aware of that, he understands that. Additionally, she was the one who was hailed as the blue blood, and because of that bloodline, Christine was the reason they were able to advocate in the manner that they did. And that was lost on him. Thus, it's more than simply losing Christine. It's also losing what he considers to be his worth. She is property to him, not a human being. She further claims that since she is her property, he is not safe. Men who have their belongings taken or who depart will go to great lengths to ensure that they do not enjoy a good afterlife. Nor did he make it any simpler for her to get away. We saw it in Season 17, and he made it really difficult. Therefore, Kody is the one who is unsafe when someone claims to be unsafe. Christine is telling us who Kody is, and we should believe her when she says that he's not safe. However, they don't explain why, so we can't comprehend where they're coming from. What I can do is that. Thus, I'm interested in hearing your opinions. Perhaps this will also give you a clearer picture of who the unsafe people are. I'm sure some of you are already aware. However, it may also help you understand why Janelle and her children felt so abandoned and why Kody is fine with continuing to be friends with Christine's daughters and grandchildren even while he isn't interested in Janelle and her children. He still desires a relationship with the blue blood. Okay everyone, what are your opinions on this? If you are looking for more sister wives gossip, come back to TLC Flix for all your updates. Bye guys.